Hey there, viewers. What if I told you one whisper just flipped the whole industry on its head? Jaguar Wright didn't just stir the pot, she set it on fire, hinting that Diddy caught HIV behind bars, and that he's not the only one. Let's break down the rumor that has everyone looking over their shoulder. Chapter 1. When the rumor became a headline. I was doing laundry when I first saw it. My phone buzzed with a notification from X, what used to be Twitter. Someone reposted a screenshot that looked like it came straight off IMDb, but not just any IMDb page. It was Diddy's, and the caption was wild. Sources close to the situation have confirmed Sean Diddy Combs may have contracted HIV while incarcerated. It said, rumors surrounding his health have intensified following recent events. I stared at it for a long time, not sure what to make of it. Like, was this real? IMDb is a movie site, right? Why would it be saying something like that? But the post had already racked up thousands of likes and retweets, people in the comments losing their minds. Some were laughing, some were furious, and a whole lot of folks were saying, "I knew it." Thing is, once something hits a place like IMDb, even if it's just a rumor, it stops being something people whisper about and starts being something they believe, especially when it's in Spanish. For some reason, people think the Spanish language pages be spilling real tea, and sure enough, when I searched the link myself, it took me straight to a Spanish page on IMDb. There it was in black and white, nothing official, no sources named. But the damage was already done. People were reposting screenshots of that page like it was CNN. I went on TikTok and it was even worse. There were edits floating around with clips of Diddy in an orange jumpsuit, walking down a prison hallway. They'd loop that with Jaguar Wright's face and some dramatic music playing in the back. Folks were making entire video essays about it, acting like they had done the research, showing blurred out documents that might as well have been made in Canva. But it didn't matter. People wanted to believe it. I could feel it. Everywhere I looked, people were suddenly medical experts. Threads saying things like, if he went undetectable that fast, he must have been positive before prison. Or watch how they try to spin this into sympathy. Some folks were talking about justice, karma, energy coming back around. Others were saying the system was just out to destroy another black man. All I knew was I had never seen a rumor catch fire like that so fast. It was like watching a match drop into a puddle of gasoline. What really got me, though, was how quick it all changed. Just a week ago, the conversation was still about raids on his houses in Los Angeles and Miami. People were focused on trafficking claims, the Cassie lawsuit, and all that talk about freakoffs. Now, suddenly we were talking about his blood, about viruses, about what he might have been hiding and who he might have exposed. It wasn't just about scandal anymore, it was about disease. And disease makes people react different. It hits something deeper, makes you scared in a way that money, fame, and power can't shield from. Maybe that's why it stuck. Maybe that's why the rumor grew teeth. I sat with it for a while, scrolled past the memes and the takes and the so-called receipts. And then I saw her name, Jaguar Wright. That's when I knew this wasn't just another internet moment. Jaguar Wright don't speak unless she's ready to bring the house down. For folks who don't know, Jaguar's a soul singer, used to roll with the Roots, but she's more famous now for what she says than what she sings. She's the kind of woman who talks like she knows where the bones are buried, and she don't care who she pisses off when she starts digging. So when I saw her face pop up in connection with Diddy and HIV, my stomach dropped. Because this wasn't just some random blogger making stuff up for clout. This was Jaguar Wright, and when she speaks, people listen, even if they pretend they don't. Her clip wasn't even that long. She was talking fast like always, animated, eyes sharp. She said, "He faced that head up. He didn't stop. How many dudes is running around undetectable? That was it. That was the moment. One sentence that changed the whole tone of the conversation. Because what she said wasn't, Diddy has HIV. It was worse. She said it like it was old news, like it had already been decided, like it wasn't a reveal, but a confirmation. And that word, undetectable, that hit hard. For folks who don't know, being undetectable means someone with HIV is on medication that suppresses the virus to the point where it can't be found in standard tests. It also means they can't transmit it. But it also means they've had it for a while. That's what people heard. That's what made it stick. She didn't say when or how or who else knew. She just left it hanging there. Like a warning. Like a dare. By then, Diddy's name was trending again, not because of the raids, not because of the lawsuits, but because Jaguar Wright opened her mouth. I saw new videos pop up within the hour, people putting timelines together, saying things like, he got real skinny back in 2018, y'all remember that? Or, he canceled that one show out of nowhere, maybe he was sick then. Someone even pulled up an old video of him talking about being tired of hiding and tried to make it fit the narrative. That's the thing about rumors. Once they start rolling, people don't just run with them. They rewrite the past to make them make sense. They pull up old pictures, old clips, old tweets. They create new meanings for things that meant nothing at the time, and suddenly, the past starts looking like prophecy. Diddy's past. Full of shadows. He's been in the game too long, touched too many lives, made too many enemies. Folks don't forget the bad stuff when it comes back around. People started pulling up those freak-off stories again. Cat Williams' interview, Usher's old connections, Justin Bieber's early days under Diddy's wing. People connected dots that might not even exist, because the feeling of truth was stronger than the facts. And Diddy ain't exactly innocent. He's built a brand off mystique, control, and silence. The man knows how to erase problems. He knows how to shut people up. But this rumor, this one felt different. Because it wasn't just about a party, or a lawsuit, or even a raid. It was about his body. It was about something that lives inside him. Something invisible, something permanent. And that's why people couldn't stop talking. Some started saying the prison angle made sense, that maybe he didn't have it before, that maybe something happened inside, that maybe this was bigger than just exposure, maybe it was punishment, maybe it was poetic. And that's when I realized this was no longer just about gossip. This was about mythology. Because once a rumor becomes a story, and that story starts to feel like justice, it's almost impossible to stop. It spreads like fire. And once people start feeling like they've uncovered the truth, even if it's built on nothing but smoke and screenshots, they protect that feeling like it's sacred. Jaguar Wright didn't start the rumor, but she gave it a soul. And once she spoke, everything changed. Chapter 2. Jaguar Wright's bombshell. I remember the first time I heard Jaguar Wright speak, not sing. Her voice had that raw, almost unstable heat to it, the kind that made you stop mid-scroll. She wasn't reading off a script. She wasn't being polite. She sounded like she had nothing left to lose, and everything left to say. So when her name popped up again after the Diddy HIV headline exploded across my feed, I knew this wasn't just some messy gossip moment. This was something heavier, something she had been holding on to. The clip was short. A few seconds, really. She was sitting somewhere dim, talking to someone off screen. And then she said it. Ink faced that head on. He didn't stop. How many dudes is running around undetectable? I froze. It wasn't even what she said, it was how she said it. Like she was talking about something obvious, like we should have all known already. That word, undetectable. I had to pause and look it up just to be sure. In medical terms, It means someone who's HIV positive, but whose viral load is so low, thanks to medication, that it doesn't show up in standard blood tests. It also means the person can't pass it on through sex. It's a huge breakthrough in science. But in gossip, it's a loaded gun. Because when Jaguar said it, she wasn't just talking about science. She was talking about secrets. Secrets that don't show up on paper. Secrets that you need someone like her to even hint at. And Jaguar don't hint. She detonates. The internet didn't waste time. People were replaying her words, breaking them down like it was a sermon. He faced that head up, turned into 100 interpretations. Did she mean he accepted it? That he knew all along? That he didn't tell anyone? Folks online started asking questions like, is she saying he knowingly exposed people? Others were saying, no, she's just saying he lived through it. Nobody knew exactly what she meant. But the one thing everyone agreed on? Jaguar Wright just made it real. And if you know anything about her, you know she doesn't just drop names for clout. She's got a history of calling people out and burning every bridge while she does it. She once accused Common of sexually assaulting her while she was asleep. That was back in 2020. No police reports, no legal follow-up. But the internet caught fire. Common denied it, of course, but the story stuck for months. She called Jill Scott a fake, said Mary J. Blige wasn't the woman people thought she was. She accused Clive Davis of using the industry to create puppets and silence rebels. She even said Erykah Badu turned her back on the truth to stay clean in the industry, that they all knew things they weren't saying. But that's Jaguar. She always positions herself like the one who will say it, the one who won't play the game, the one who lost everything already and therefore has nothing left to protect. And whether or not you believe her, people listen, because her stories have just enough truth, just enough connection to known events to make you think, what if? It's like she carries the keys to a locked room in your favorite artist's mansion, and she keeps jingling them just loud enough to make you believe she's been inside. So when she said Diddy was undetectable, that wasn't just tea. That was war. The reaction came fast. Diddy didn't respond. He never does when Jaguar speaks. But his silence felt heavy this time, like maybe there was something to hide. And Jaguar, she wasn't done. In another clip, a few days later, she said something else, something even crazier. Y'all better get ready, I got at least 20 more names. 20, and every last one of them been playing you for decades. That was the quote. Not only was she doubling down on her claim about Diddy, she was promising more, much more. Nobody knew if she was talking about HIV, or if it was something else entirely. But the internet took it and ran. People started posting their guest lists, Wrapped blogs, stan accounts, even gossip pages on Instagram. Names were flying. Rappers, producers, executives. Some people said she was bluffing. Others said she was building a hit list. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, Jaguar posted a flyer. She had a new show coming. That's when the whole thing tilted. Because now it wasn't just a story. It was content. She called it Truth Serum. No date, no guest list. Just a teaser image, a syringe full of ink, dripping onto a contract. And the tagline, "Me told me to shut up, I'm gonna scream." People lost their minds. Every YouTube commentator started speculating. Was she going to name all 20? Was she going to drop receipts? Would it all get scrubbed from the internet within hours? I watched it unfold like a slow earthquake. Because Jaguar Wright is unpredictable. She might go silent for weeks, or she might get on live tonight and start spilling names like a phone book. That's what makes her dangerous. That's what makes her watchable. She lives somewhere between villain and prophet, and that space, that's where rumors turn into movements. She's not polished, not organized, not always even coherent, but she's raw. And in the age of overproduced influencers and media-trained celebrities, that kind of rawness feels like proof, even when it isn't. So now we're here. The internet has decided that Diddy's status isn't just a maybe, it's a known unknown. He hasn't denied it, Jaguar hasn't backed down, and nobody's telling her to stop, at least not in a way that's sticking. She's out here talking about medicine, secrets, power, betrayal. She's daring the industry to sue her, to prove her wrong. And if she's bold enough to say this about Diddy, what else is she ready to expose? Chapter 3. The Prison Twist. It didn't take long before the story changed shape. 1 minute people were still unpacking Jaguar Wright's words, trying to decide whether she meant Diddy had HIV now or had it for a while. And the next, the narrative shifted, subtly at first, then fast, almost like a game of telephone gone rogue. All it took was one person to say, he must have caught it in prison. And suddenly that was the version of events everyone wanted to believe. It showed up on X first. Someone posted, "Y'all realize this all started after he got locked up. Connect the dots." 1,000 reposts later, there were side-by-side screenshots, one of Diddy walking into the holding cell in cuffs, and another of Jaguar Wright saying he faced that head up. It didn't matter that there was no actual proof. It didn't even matter that there was no official medical report. The image of Diddy, someone so rich, so untouchable, getting sick behind bars. It felt right to people. It felt poetic. You gotta understand, prison rumors hit different in celebrity culture. Anytime a big name goes inside, the gossip practically writes itself. People love imagining what it would look like for someone so powerful to be humbled in the worst way possible. They picture the fluorescent lights, the hard mattress, the loss of control. They picture a man used to private jets and million-dollar suits, now sharing a toilet with strangers. And in that place of imagination, it becomes easy to add in more. More suffering, more scandal, more shame. So when the Diddy rumors started leaning into the idea of him contracting HIV while incarcerated, it wasn't just gossip. It was fantasy, the kind people eat up like candy. I saw entire Reddit threads dedicated to it, people saying they had sources on the inside, saying he was placed in general population, saying there was an incident no one reported. One post even claimed he was seen by a nurse multiple times in a week, and that staff were told not to speak to the press. Of course, there was nothing solid, no names, no documents, but that didn't stop folks from getting creative. Fake screenshots started popping up. Photoshop jobs made to look like prison medical records, stamped with fake Department of Corrections headers. One screenshot listed his patient ID number as Coms HIV1. It was ridiculous, but people shared it anyway. They said if it wasn't true, he'd deny it. They said too many coincidences. They said this explains why he's been so quiet. And it just kept spiraling. Even though the original reports were clear, Diddy was in custody due to federal raids related to assault and trafficking allegations, not medical issues. The line between truth and rumor blurred. You had verified sources talking about court filings and frozen assets, and right underneath those posts, replies like, "Okay, but what about the virus though?" And it was like people were reading two separate timelines, one rooted in actual legal trouble, and the other in whispers about blood tests, jailhouse encounters, and medical neglect. And the second one, that's the one that stuck. Because people don't want to just see the mighty fall, they want to see them humiliated. It's not enough for someone like Diddy to be arrested. He has to be broken, he has to be infected, he has to be changed. It's an urban legend waiting to happen, like those old stories about celebrities getting jumped in prison, or being forced to clean toilets, or having breakdowns in solitary. None of it proven, but all of it passed around like bedtime stories for grown folks. And this story, it had all the right ingredients. A powerful man, a secret illness, a locked facility, and a woman on the outside whispering just enough to make it believable. Jaguar didn't say he got it in prison, but she did not say it either. And in the silence between her words, people wrote their own chapters. They said maybe he had a compromised immune system and the conditions made it worse. They said maybe he got into a fight. Maybe someone did it on purpose. Maybe it was a setup. It got darker. Some posts implied that other inmates were paid to keep quiet, that maybe a correctional officer knew, that maybe medical files were scrubbed. You could see people pulling out every horror story they'd ever heard about prison and stuffing it into this one rumor like it was a suitcase. And once that image took hold of Diddy, locked up, sick, shamed, there was no pulling it back. It didn't matter that most of the story had no real base. Because what matters now isn't proof, it's plausibility. And Diddy? He's given the world enough over the years to make almost anything feel plausible. Think about it. The lawsuits, the parties, the whispers that go back decades. He built his empire on mystery, on control, on power moves behind closed doors. So when the story flipped and painted him as the one being controlled, the one being humiliated, the one being hurt, people latched onto it. Even more than that, he was being abused. He thought it was the controller's fault. It was a reversal of power, a rewrite of the narrative. And folks who felt manipulated by his image, by the machine that protected him, suddenly saw a crack. They thought maybe this is the truth slipping through, even if it wasn't, even if it never happened that way. And yet, this wasn't the only dark story linking Diddy, his health, and his past. Chapter 4. The Shadow of the Freakoffs. It's funny how some rumors don't die. They just sit in the dark, waiting for the right moment to come crawling back into the light. That's exactly what happened with the stories about Diddy's so-called freakoffs. If you've been around the internet long enough, you've probably heard the whispers. People have been talking about those parties for years. Not the Hollywood glam kind with a red carpet and step and repeats. No, these were the behind-the-curtain, phones in a bucket, no cameras allowed type deals. The kind of parties that only exist through the memories of those brave or foolish enough to talk about them later. They called them freakoffs. And once you start saying that word out loud, you realize how it sticks to your teeth. Sticky, sleazy, sharp. The rumors painted a picture. Big names, young guests, weird rules, and an atmosphere that felt more like a ritual than a celebration. There was talk of drugs, contracts, invitations that doubled as warnings. People would say, that's where careers get made or destroyed. But those were always just whispers, vague and blurry, until a few voices started putting faces to the stories. One of those voices was Cat Williams. He didn't name names at first, but in his viral interview that blew up like wildfire, he spoke about the entertainment industry in a way that made your skin crawl. He described parties where people walked in one way and came out looking like they left their soul behind, where young artists were put in compromising situations for the sake of access, where older men watched from the walls like predators, waiting to pounce. And when people started guessing who he meant, Diddy's name was one of the first to come up. Not because Cat said it outright, but because the puzzle pieces started fitting too cleanly. Then there was 50 Cent. He didn't even try to be subtle. He'd post memes, video clips, little jabs that didn't say the word freak off but left no doubt what he was hinting at. In one post, he mocked Diddy for calling another man daddy. In another, he reposted a clip of Diddy being extra touchy with a young male artist during an interview and captioned it with nothing but laughing emojis and side eyes. Fans took it from there. Clips of Diddy being what people called sauce were suddenly everywhere. Some of them were years old. Him dancing too close, him making strange comments, him acting possessive of younger male artists. It didn't matter what the real context was. People were editing them together, layering dramatic music and framing it like a documentary expose. All those old freak-off rumors, they came back with a vengeance. And this time, they weren't just about sex or control. If they were about health, because now, thanks to Jaguar Wright, people were looking at those parties through a new lens. They were saying, if he was doing all that, then yeah, maybe he did get exposed to something. The idea that Diddy had HIV wasn't just floating on its own anymore. It had roots, it had history, it had context that people were already primed to believe. Jaguar's comment didn't sound wild anymore. It sounded like the missing piece. People said, oh, now it all makes sense. They started reposting old tweets from people who had hinted about weird things at Diddy's parties. One woman claimed she was invited to an after-party and left after 10 minutes because something felt off. Another said she heard that people had to sign NDAs and couldn't speak for life. And even though these were anonymous accounts with no dates or receipts, the timing made them feel real. Because once a story takes shape, your brain starts collecting anything that supports it, even if it's dust. And the story that was forming now? It was darker than anything people had imagined. Diddy wasn't just a party host. He was a gatekeeper, a puppet master, a man who knew too much and made sure everyone else knew too little. And if he really was sick, if what Jaguar said was true, then those freak-offs weren't just scandalous. They were dangerous. People began asking the real questions. Did the guests know? Was anyone else exposed? Was there a reason we never heard from certain artists again after attending those events? The HIV rumor stopped being about Diddy alone. It became about everyone around him. The people who showed up to those parties, the ones who stayed silent, the ones who protected him. Because now, it wasn't just about risk, it was about cover-up. And that's where the real tension lived. Jaguar's bombshell wasn't just a juicy headline. It was an accusation. Not just at Diddy, but at the whole machine around him. If he was really positive, who helped him keep it a secret? Who signed the checks to keep people quiet? Who made the phone calls to scrub stories before they hit the blogs? The freak-offs might have been the stage, but someone, somewhere, was writing the script. And Jaguar, she was trying to tear it up. She made it clear this wasn't just about bad behavior. She was talking about systemic silence, about an industry that protects its stars at any cost, even at the cost of other people's lives. Because if the parties hinted at danger, Jaguar suggested something even bigger, that the industry helped him hide it. No, doubt it not, but it protected bits, prevented all else at Chapter 5. Protected by the gatekeepers. I remember the moment the name Clive Davis came up. Jaguar wasn't even yelling in that clip. She was calm, almost too calm, like someone who had nothing left to prove. She said his name like she was naming the weather, like it was just a fact of life. Clive Davis knew, she said. Lucien Grange knew, they all did. And just like that, the conversation changed again. As if Jaguar was right. If Diddy really was sick, really did have HIV, really had been living undetectable like she claimed, then the question wasn't just about him anymore. It was about who helped him hide it. Clive Davis is a music godfather, the kind of man who's been around so long his shadow touches everyone. Whitney Houston, Aretha Franklin, Alicia Keys. He's not just an executive, he's a kingmaker. And Lucien Grange, the CEO of Universal Music Group. That's the top of the food chain. You don't get higher than him. Jaguar didn't accuse them of giving Diddy HIV. She didn't say they covered up crimes. But what she did say hit just as hard. She said they knew, and they protected him anyway. And in the world of celebrity gossip, that kind of statement is nuclear. Because now we weren't just talking about risky behavior or private illness. We were talking about institutional secrecy, about entire towers of power built to protect one man's silence. The more I thought about it, the more it started to make sense. If you look back at Diddy's career, every time something wild popped up, it disappeared just as fast. Lawsuits settled, stories pulled, victims going quiet. It was like there was always someone cleaning up behind him, making sure nothing stuck. People used to joke about it. Diddy must have the best lawyers in the world. But what if it wasn't just lawyers? What if it was the machine itself? The entertainment industry runs on illusion, on loyalty, on money moving in the dark. There's a whole language to it. NDAs, settlements, mutual agreements. The idea isn't just to solve problems, it's to erase them. By punishing them. And if someone powerful enough decided that Diddy's illness wasn't going to become public knowledge, you better believe it wouldn't. That's why Jaguar's words landed so hard. Because she wasn't just pointing fingers at Diddy anymore. She was asking a bigger question. Who else knew? And who made the choice to stay silent? We'd already seen glimpses of how this kind of silence works. When Jaguar went on Piers Morgan's show, she dropped names, talked wild, and just like that, the interview got edited. Piers went on air days later with an official apology. Not just a tweet, a broadcasted apology to Beyoncé and Jay-Z. Think about that. This is a man who makes his living stirring the pot, letting guests rant and rage. But when Jaguar started touching nerves tied to real power, he backtracked. Fast. And he didn't just say sorry. He said the clips were inappropriate and unfounded, that they had been removed out of respect, that legal action had been threatened. That told me everything I needed to know. The gatekeepers were watching, and when they wanted something gone, it disappeared. Other outlets followed suit. Clips of Jaguar's appearances started vanishing from YouTube. Instagram lives would get flagged for sensitive content. Videos uploaded one night would be gone by morning. Even fan accounts that tried to repost her interviews started getting copyright claims and takedowns. At first, I thought it was coincidence. But too many coincidences start looking like a pattern. And once you see the pattern, it's hard to unsee. Jaguar herself said it best in one of her rants. They want me gone because I'm not playing the game. I'm not gonna let you smile in my face and lie to the world while folks out here dying. It was messy, it was emotional, but it didn't feel fake. It felt like someone trying to break the glass. And if she was telling the truth, if Diddy really had HIV and these gatekeepers really did protect that secret, then it wasn't just about shame anymore. It was about danger. Danger to the people around him. Danger to the industry that enabled it. Danger to the public who trusted the music, the artists, the culture. I kept thinking about that question. What's scarier? The idea that Diddy has HIV? Or that if he does, the entire industry helped keep it secret? Because one of those is a personal story. The other is a system. A machine with no brakes. A wall of silence stretching from boardrooms to backrooms. And once you realize how easy it is to keep secrets when enough people benefit from them, you start wondering what else is being hidden. That's where the real scandal lives. Not in Jaguar's voice. Not in Diddy's blood. But in the silence that surrounds them both. And that secrecy is what fans point to as the real scandal. Chapter 6. The Internet's Court of Public Opinion. If there's one place where a rumor doesn't just survive but thrives, it's the internet. Especially when it comes to someone like Diddy. After Jaguar Wright dropped her comment, the streets weren't the only ones talking. The digital world exploded. YouTube was the first battlefield. Gossip channels, some with hundreds of thousands of followers, jumped on the story like it was breaking news. Thumbnails showed Diddy with his head down, red arrows. Explosive text. Diddy exposed. Jaguar Wright tells all. Is this the end? And the videos? To people, Lyme disease. They didn't even need new information. Most of them just replayed the same clips we'd all seen. Jaguar's voice. Her tone, that word, undetectable. The reactors added their own flavor. They paused mid-sentence to widen their eyes, leaned into the mic like they were about to drop a secret. Some of them played it like they were shocked. Others acted like they'd been waiting for this. I always said something was off. This man been protected for too long. If Jaguar's lying, she better be ready for war. But if she's not, the views stacked up. So did the comments. TikTok wasn't far behind. The creativity there, wild. People were doing skits like they were nurses at the prison clinic. Others acted out Jaguar Wright reading confidential files like it was a soap opera. People added dramatic sound effects, music that sounded like a funeral scene. One video showed someone wiping tears while mouthing Jaguar's quote word for word. He faced that head up. He didn't stop. Some of it was funny, some of it felt dark, but it all spread the same message. The rumor was out, and it had teeth. Then there were the forums, threads popping up on Reddit, on Lipstick Alley, even on Facebook groups dedicated to celebrity drama. People arguing, people theorizing. Is this karma for everything he did to Cassie? You don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Maybe this is slander. Maybe someone's trying to destroy him while he's vulnerable. Everyone had a take. And underneath all of it, you could see the same pattern. People believing what feels true. Because Diddy wasn't walking into this moment with clean hands. His name already carried weight, not just in music, but in lawsuits, in scandal, in whispered stories that never fully went away. People remembered the Cassie case, the raids on his homes in Los Angeles and Miami, the footage of him looking nervous, sweating on the red carpet, avoiding questions. People remembered how Cat Williams described the industry, how 50 Cent kept poking at him, how old clips never sat right with certain fans. So when this new rumor hit, it didn't feel like a lie. It felt like the next chapter. That's what made it powerful. That's what made it stick. Because online, truth is slippery. What matters more is momentum. And this rumor had it. There were counter-narratives, of course. Some people spoke up in the comments, said it was wrong to talk about someone's health without proof, that HIV stigma was real, and that Jaguar could be weaponizing fear. A few even tried to analyze her motives. Was she bitter? Was she trying to get attention? Did she have something to promote? But even those voices got swallowed up, drowned out by the noise. It wasn't just about defending Diddy. It was about swimming upstream against a flood. Because people weren't just hearing Jaguar's words. They were writing their own stories. They said they saw it coming. They said the clues were there all along. They remembered the weight loss, the canceled shows, the vague interviews where he talked about being tired of hiding. They used those breadcrumbs to build a narrative, one that didn't need confirmation. And once that story took hold, even the truth couldn't catch up. Because online, the version that spreads fastest wins. And Jaguar gave them a story worth running with. It had mystery, it had danger, it had power being flipped on its head. And it had her, a woman known for telling uncomfortable truths. A woman who burned bridges and walked away barefoot. A woman who didn't just drop bombs, she stood and watched them explode. So when she hinted that this wasn't the end, that she had more names, the internet lost its mind all over again. Because if Diddy was just the first domino, who was next? And what would happen when she said their names out loud? But Jaguar wasn't done. Her hints about naming 20 more men added gasoline to the fire. Chapter 7, 20 more names. When Jaguar Wright said she had more names, it wasn't loud. It wasn't even dramatic. She just dropped it in, like an afterthought. Like she was barely scratching the surface. "Y'all better get ready," she said. "I got at least 20 more names. 20. And every last one of them been playing you for decades." That was it. No list, no details, just a casual warning tossed into the storm. But it landed like thunder. Because 20 names? That's not a whisper. That's a time bomb. It changed the conversation. People stopped talking just about Diddy. They started looking sideways at everybody. It was like someone flipped a switch. Suddenly, every male celebrity became a suspect. On Twitter, users started building threads, potential Jaguar list. People listed rappers, producers, label execs, choreographers, actors. Some were names you'd expect. People with messy pasts, weird interviews, or awkward connections to Diddy. But others were just big names, famous, visible. Their take on vacancy was polar, and that was all it took. Instagram gossip pages had their own takes. They posted grids of male celebrities with the caption, "Which 20 y'all think she means?" It was packaged like a game, but it wasn't funny. Because under every post were comments that weren't just speculation. They were accusation, and for sure. I've been saying he was sus since 2012. Wouldn't be surprised. No proof, no context, just vibes. And vibes were enough. That's the danger in what Jaguar did. He didn't name anyone, but she created a silhouette big enough to fit almost anybody. And once that silhouette is out there, it doesn't matter if you're innocent. If you're a man in music and over a certain level of fame, someone probably added your name to the list. The mood online changed again. It wasn't about sympathy for Diddy anymore, or justice. It was about fear, paranoia. Who else was hiding something? Who else had secrets? And the worst part? Jaguar didn't need to say anything else. The threat was already alive. It reminded me of how things used to be, back when rumors about HIV first hit the mainstream. Like with Magic Johnson. When he announced he was HIV positive back in 1991, the world stopped. He was a superstar, masculine, healthy looking. It didn't make sense to people, and that confusion turned into fear. People didn't want to shake his hand. Some didn't want to be in the same room. The media swarmed, and fans whispered. Who did he get it from? Who else had it? How long had he known? He became a symbol, not of illness, but of the fear around illness. Same thing with Eazy-E. His diagnosis and death happened so fast, the rumors spread faster than the facts. Some said he was poisoned. Others said it was a cover-up. A few even claimed the government targeted him. His HIV diagnosis became a conspiracy theory overnight. In both cases, the actual illness got swallowed up by the narrative around it. And now we were watching that pattern repeat. Except this time, Jaguar Wright was the one holding the match. Her tease about 20 names wasn't just messy, it was dangerous. Because she was playing with real lives, real reputations, real families. And people online didn't care. They were having too much fun. Some users turned it into content. They started countdowns, 20 days, 20 names, like it was an event. They joked about who would be number one. They made bingo cards. But others took it seriously. They started making long videos analyzing body language, digging up old tweets, making timelines, searching for any moment of contradiction, any unusual phrasing, any connection to Diddy that could serve as justification. It was a witch hunt, plain and simple. And Jaguar? She watched it all unfold. Never confirmed, never denied. Just let the fire spread. In that silence, that was the loudest part. Because now, the industry wasn't just wondering what she knew. They were wondering what she'd say next. Was she bluffing? Or was she loading up for something big? And if Jaguar actually names names, it could be the most explosive industry reveal in decades. Chapter 8. The Legacy of a Rumor. I don't think we'll ever really know if it's true. Whether Diddy actually has HIV, whether he contracted it in prison, whether Jaguar Wright knows something the rest of us don't. At this point, proof almost doesn't matter. The damage has already been done. Because that's the thing about a rumor like this. It doesn't need evidence to stick. It just needs to sound like something people want to believe. And once it lands, it leaves a stain that never really washes off. Diddy's name was already tangled up in all kinds of controversy. The lawsuits, the raids, the stories about control, abuse, manipulation. But this rumor added something different, something intimate, something permanent. When people hear HIV, they don't forget it. They don't just move on, even if the person denies it, even if the story gets debunked. That word lingers. It follows. And now it follows him. Every time his name comes up, this rumor will be there too. Like a shadow. I think about how fast it all moved. How one woman's comment, not even a full sentence, not even a clear accusation, turned into an avalanche, and how nobody could stop it once it started rolling. Backfire, backfire, backfire. It will just go on. Now it's part of the Diddy lore, right alongside the freakoffs, the lawsuits, the whispered threats. It's another piece of the myth, another scar on the image. And there's no fixing that. Even if he comes out tomorrow with test results, even if Jaguar retracts her words, the rumor already took root. And once that happens, there's no going back. I wonder what happens next. Does Diddy sue? Maybe. He's got the lawyers, he's got the money, but suing Jaguar? That might only make it worse. It might look like he's trying to silence her, might turn her into a martyr. Or maybe he stays quiet, keeps playing the long game, lets the machine clean it up behind the scenes like it always has. That strategy's worked for him before. But this time feels different. The internet isn't the same as it was 10 years ago. Stories don't disappear the way they used to. Screenshots live forever. Clips resurface at the worst times. And once something becomes a meme, it's part of culture. So maybe there will be lawsuits, but maybe not the kind Diddy controls. Maybe someone else sues. Someone named, someone accused, someone whose life got touched by this fire in a way they didn't expect. And what about Jaguar? Has she become more powerful? More followed? She already teased a show. She already proved she can shake the table with a single clip. Maybe she rides this wave into her own platform, becomes the industry's most feared voice. Or maybe it turns on her. Maybe the pressure mounts. Maybe the legal heat comes fast. Maybe she loses support. Right now, she's riding a line. One step away from vindication, one step away from collapse. It could go either way. But one thing's for sure. Nothing about this ends clean. Diddy's empire might survive. He's survived worse, depending on how you define worse. He's still rich, still connected, still protected in some ways. But even if he wins every lawsuit, clears every charge, rebrands every narrative, he can't erase this one. Because the rumor doesn't live on paper. It lives in conversation, in side eyes, in knowing glances, in silence. And that's where it'll stay. In the background of every headline, between the lines of every story. Whether it's true or not, the whisper that Jaguar Wright confirmed Diddy caught HIV in prison will follow him forever. And maybe that's the real punishment.